Hey, what's up everyone? This is Jonathan Coates, and in today's free copywriting tutorial, I'm going to be talking about capturing attention and basically headline making and the entire philosophy and psychology behind gripping people's attentions from the very get-go. I have a lot of different resources that I want to share with you. I made a few videos, actually a lot of videos. I have an entire copywriting playlist right here where, as you can see, I've gone on and on about copywriting. So it seems to me that it looks like I covered every other topic except for the AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action. I guess maybe because that's just like the most basic formula. So I just didn't even consider covering it. But from the OATH formula, OATH, from the ICTA formula to the FAB formula and the BAB formula, before, after, bridge, the PAS formula. So this video isn't about AIDA. I want to make a separate video for that specifically, but it is inspired by the attention of that formula, AIDA. And I was reading this right here. This book is called The Copywriter's Handbook, a step-by-step guide to writing copy that sells. And this is the third edition. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this to you, and I'm going to go over it a bit. And then I also want to share, this is a basic structure of a script by Jordan Belfort. Now, this isn't directly about copywriting, but as you know, copywriting is just selling on paper. So the very beginning of your basic sales script is what's particularly relevant to this video, the open. And then also I have a video that I made about, I think 2 years ago, how to write letters that grip attention. There's an analogy in here called the light ray analogy. If you've seen this video, you remember what I'm talking about, but I got the transcript up. So I'm either going to plug this portion into the video, or I'm just going to read it to you here in this transcript. And then 5 years ago or 6 years ago, I created a video called How to Write Profitable Headlines and Email Subject Lines in Seconds for Any Niche or Market. Now, this video is mainly focused on how to accomplish an objective without having to worry about etc. XYZ. So that's what the majority of this video is covering. You know, it's like as far as like creating headlines to get attention. So I just want to go over all this stuff in unison together to really just concentrate this video, focus mainly on the attention portion of the AID formula. But getting started, let's go ahead and read this right here. So when you read a magazine or a newspaper, you ignore most of the ads and read only a few. Yet many of the ads you skip are selling products that may be of interest to you. The reason you don't read more ads is simple. There are just too many advertisements competing for your attention, and you don't have the time or the inclination to read them all. This is why you, as a copywriter, must work hard to get attention for your ad or commercial. Wherever you turn, the web, magazines, television, or the mail basket of a busy executive, there are just too many things competing for your reader's attention. For example, a single issue of Cosmopolitan magazine contains 275 advertisements, and that's actually a great resource for swipe files, by the way, because they hire the most expensive copywriters in the world daily to write the most intriguing and attention-gripping headlines. So if you ever need inspiration, and by the way, also that reminds me of a resource that I use called Swipe Folder and Swipe Files. So Swipe File, these two right here, just like Cosmopolitan, you can come and get proven headlines and ad copy that works in your niche. I just want to throw this in here. I know it's kind of like random, but it's definitely relevant. I'll have this in the description with stuff like this. Reduce your wrinkles up to 56% the first month. And that sounds interesting to someone who's struggling or, constantly thinking about the fact that they're aging. So anyway, getting back to where we were, one issue of the New York Times ran 280 display ads and 4,680 classified ads. Each year, American companies spend more than $20 billion to advertise in popular magazines, newspapers, and trade publications. Even worse, your ad competes with the articles published in these newspapers and magazines, as well as with all the other reading material that crosses the reader's desk or is piled in her mail basket. Let's say you're writing an ad to sell laboratory equipment to scientists. Your ad will compete with the dozens of other ads in the scientific journal in which it is published. And the scientist probably receives a dozen or more such journals every month. Each is filled with articles and papers he should read to keep up to date in his field. But John Naisbitt, author of Megatrends, estimates that 6,000 to 7,000 scientific articles are written daily. The total amount of technical information in the world doubles every 5.5 years. This increased amount of information makes it difficult for any single piece of information to be noticed. According to Dr. Leo Bogart of the Newspaper Advertising Bureau, consumers are exposed to more than twice as many ads today as 15 years ago, but pay attention to only 20% more. Obviously, those ads that don't do something special to grab the reader's attention are not noticed and not read. Bob Donoth, former editor of Business Marketing, says the successful ad is one that is able to pop through the clutter. Direct mail advertisers know that a sales letter has only 5 seconds in which to gain the reader's attention. And with the basic structure of a sales script, you only really have 3 seconds before they decide on whether or not you're important enough to stay on the phone. That same psychology and philosophy applies in copywriting. And another thing about this is when you're writing ads, you want to get into the mind of the person who's reading. So you want to basically enter their world where they are at right now, rather than introducing information to them, And I talk about this in the oath formula. If they see something that's directly related to what they're already thinking about, they're more likely to click on that rather than all the other stuff. Similarly, an ad, if the reader finds nothing of interest after 5 seconds of scanning the letter, she will toss the letter in the trash. Similarly, an ad or commercial has only a few seconds to capture the prospect's interest before the prospect turns the page or goes to the refrigerator. In advertising, getting attention is the job of the headline. If you can come up with a good headline, you are almost sure to have a good ad, writes John Caples in his book, How to Make Your Advertising Make Money. But even the greatest writer can't save an ad with a poor headline. So consider this. We're talking about headlines, but another thing about direct mail, they mention, picture a guy like in front of the fireplace inside of his log cabin, and the snow was all the way up to the door. When he opens the door, he can hardly get out. So he's like all snuggled up and warm, and he's cozy in front of that fireplace with hot chocolate, and he's going through his envelope. Well, you want to have something that's just is interesting enough to compel that guy to not only get from his fireplace, like get up, take his warm blanket off, but it needs to be compelling enough for him to walk through the storm to his mailbox, put that letter in the mail to buy whatever it is that you're selling him. So that's kind of the mentality you have to have when you're trying to get people's attention. So let's talk about how headlines get attention. In all forms of advertising, the first impression, the first thing the reader sees, reads, or hears can mean the difference between success and failure. If the first impression is boring or irrelevant, the ad will not attract your prospect. If it offers news or helpful information or promises a reward for reading the ad, the first impression will win the reader's attention. And this is the first step in persuading the reader to buy your product. So what specifically is this first impression? In a print advertisement, it is the headline and the visual. In a brochure, it's the cover. In a direct mail package, it's the copy on the outer envelope or the first few sentences in the letter. In a press release, it's the lead paragraph. In a sales brochure or catalog, it's the front cover. In a sales presentation, it's the first few slides or flip charts. On a website, it's the first screen of the home page. In an email marketing message, it's the from line and subject line. No matter how persuasive your body copy or how great your product, your ad cannot sell if it does not attract your customers' attention. Most advertising experts agree that an attention-getting headline is the key ingredient in successful advertisement. Here's what David Ogilvy, author of Confession of an Advertising Man, by the way, that's a really good book, says about headlines. The headline is the most important element in most advertisements. It is the telegram which decides whether the reader will read the copy. On average, 5 times as many people read the headline as they read the body copy. When you have written your headline, you have spent 80 cents out of your dollar. If you haven't done some selling in your headline, you have wasted 80% of your client's money. So I'm going to leave it at there. I just want to give you an idea real quick on the importance of headlines. And then if you want the rest of this chapter, I'll go ahead and leave it in the description, but I don't want to, get any type of copywriting for reading too much. I'm not entirely sure. But so the opening from this basic structure of a sales script actually kind of gives you even more insight on psychology of this. You begin your script with your introduction or your open. It should be short and to the point, as it is basically how you introduce yourself. Tell them the reason for your call or your meeting and ask permission to qualify them. Sounds simple enough. So you want to, in the first 4 seconds, earn their trust and attention. And the philosophy behind this is, and when you qualify them, basically in a headline, like in an advertisement headline, you want to make sure you're targeting the people who you want to buy your product. You don't want to just have like this large blanket umbrella. You want to say, hey, like for an example, if you're selling jewelry or if you're selling something like kitchenware or what have you, you want to say housewives, attention housewives in your 40s, stay-at-home moms type of deal. You want to be really specific on who it is you're targeting and qualifying. In this context right here for advertisements and headlines and just headlines in general, that's basically what this means right here. And you want to be short to the point and you want to be direct because there's only about 4 seconds you have in general. So make sure you refer to this playlist right here. I go on and on and on about copywriting. So what I'm going to do, just for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and plug this in here. This part right here is called the search ray light analogy. And it's a really good analogy, but for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and just plug this in here rather than reading the transcript. And then also I'll have this in the description. The basic gist of this is targeting what exactly they're interested in, how to get rid of belly fat in 10 days. And you add like a time frame without, like their normal expectations. So how to lose weight in 10 days without diet or exercising. Most people expect that they're going to have to diet or exercise. So this is very intriguing. How to make $10,000 in 30 days with zero experience. But yeah. So, and then again, I'll have these right here in the description. Swipe folder as well as swipe worthy. I'll go ahead and plug this portion into the video right here, and you should see it start right about now. He uses this analogy here with this race. So he talks about how he traveled down the Mississippi River, and there happened to be but a few passengers on the boat, and the captain let us amuse themselves with the searchlight in the evenings. So as we swung its rays over the shore, every once in a while at the very edge of the light would appear some objects that looked alive. Immediately we would turn the full glare of the light on that object. Sometimes we would find something alive and interesting. Other times we would discover that our attention had been attracted by only a light-covered bush or an inanimate object, and then it would swing our rays forward again. Always we hunted for something alive to be picked up, and that's what he means by attention. So the constant sweeping of the searchlight's rays as we went down the river typifies to me that the attention of the normal human mind. With its rays, it is continuously sweeping the skyline of life for indications of something worth turning its concentrated light upon. So for instance, a man sits at a window apparently looking at nothing. 10 men pass it and he hardly sees them. The 11th comes along, and something about the 11th makes the man at the window think of a soldier. He's interested in soldiers, and he stops his attention, his searchlight, and turns his full light on that man. So like if you think about it, and then he also, on the next page right here, he says, now the 10 men who passed unnoticed very likely didn't care for the observer's notice, but that isn't true about the 10% of our letters. They need and want the receiver's notice. We want him to stop and turn the full glare of his attention on them. Therefore, in writing letters which are planned to attract the reader's attention, we must devise something that will stick up from the ideas in those letters into the range of one of the reader's attention rays and attract and stop his attention as it swings along. So as you can see here on this next page here, he uses this same ray light. The big idea of your letter is here, and you have an attention stopper as a flag. So this is the reader's attention, and you got this, hey, check this out. So what he's basically saying up to this point is, you want the big idea of your letter to be congruent with the attention stopper, but you want to make sure that you have this content taken care of first, then focus on this and make sure this is a seamless transition. Because if it isn't, you might have their attention, but if it isn't incongruent with what you use to stop there to get to attract their attention in the first place, then you're going to be repelled and keep going. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that gave you a little bit more context. And if you like content like this, then I definitely recommend that you subscribe to the channel. I talk about everything when it comes to generating traffic and increasing sales. And be sure to take a look at the copywriting checklist right in the description. You can actually use that as you're creating your copy. So you can go down the checklist and make sure you're covering all bases by using that. And take a look at the tools and the resources below. I have absolutely everything that I included in this video, as well as some additional resources. Probably I have like the Confessions of an Advertising Man by David Ogilvy. And I'll have this in there as well. This is from archive.org. You can find it in Applied Business Correspondence. All right. So with that said, I hope you enjoy. I will see you in the next video. See you then.